Hey there, I'm a marriage counselor, and one of the things I've recognized over the years is that probably the biggest thing that hurts relationships is expectations. And so let me talk about that just a little bit. People will often say, well, shouldn't I have expectations for marriage and for my partner? And my answer to that is absolutely not. You can have expectations for yourself in terms of what you want in a marriage and how you want to be. But to place that expectation on another person creates two problems. One is it puts a burden on the other person. Well, they will carry the anxiety of wondering if they will measure up to your expectation. And so their behaviors will probably in part be motivated by not upsetting you or possibly pleasing you. But but that works against the idea of love, which is free and unconditional. So it puts a stress on them of whether they'll measure up. But it puts a stressor on you with the idea of will that person measure up to my expectations, so you'll feel the stress of that. This whole idea is based on the fact that the only thing that really heals a relationship, or anything for that matter, is love, which is unconditional acceptance of the other. Because when you fully accept the other person, then they feel at home in their skin and they can be who they are and you accept them as they are. So the next natural question might be, well, what if the way they behave is unloving and disrespectful? What do I do about that? I'd say, well, accept that as well. And just let the person know this is the kind of relationship I want. And if those are the behaviors you're going to do, then that's okay. I can accept that. I'm just letting you know that your access to me will be limited because of that. Because you don't want to try to change them to make yourself happy. What you want to do is accept them and find your own well-being within yourself and within God, not relying on somebody else. Because an expectation implies that your well-being depends on somebody else changing so that you'll be happy or contented. And let me just say that will never, ever work. So you're right to want to have certain things in your relationship, which is a reciprocated love. We all want that. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. The problem comes when you place that expectation on the other person to be that for you. Even if your expectation is right in the sense of this is the way that a relationship ought to work, behaviors can't be forced. People have to change because they decide to change and want to change. And so if you lovingly say to your spouse, hey, that behavior is hurtful to me and I love you and don't want to change you, but I'm just letting you know that's affecting our relationship. And so is that something that you can take a look at? And if they respond to that, great. If they don't, then you can let them know lovingly and gently that means that I'm going to have to limit your access to me because I want better than that in a relationship. And also, I don't want to enable that behavior that you do. So I'm going to put some distance in our relationship. Now, we could talk a whole lot about distance and boundaries and stuff like that. We could talk for hours about that. But I'm just asking all of us to pay attention to expectations. You can see it even on a micro level in the sense of an argument, because an argument implies an expectation. In fact, the way I would almost define an argument would be something along the lines of an argument is an expectation that the other person conform to my desires. Now, most of us wouldn't say that, but that's really what an argument really is. So when you find yourself getting frustrated with your spouse, ask yourself, what's the expectation here that I have? Identify it and then release it. And if you want to communicate to your partner something that they do that's hurtful, do it. Do it in a way that's loving and accepting, but also not demanding or coming at it with anger, because that's not going to be exciting. It's not going to be attractive to the other person. And if you do it with an expectation of aggression or resentment or a tone, there's about a 99% chance the other person's not going to comply with that. Or if they do, they would do it in fear. And they would do it under this pressure of, will I comply so that I don't lose this person's approval? But that won't be satisfying to you, won't be satisfying to them. The only healthy relationship is where two people freely give themselves to each other and freely accept each other without requirements. We communicate things that are unloving and disrespectful, that are hurtful to me, and we let them know that, but we don't require them to change it. But we give them space to let them know that. And all along the way, we're letting them know that we love and care about that person. But I just want you to know that that behavior is hurtful to me. Can we talk about it? So pay attention to your body. Your body will tell you when you have expectations, when you feel yourself getting revved up, when you're in a conflict with your spouse, you'll recognize the expectations there. Recognize it, release it, and then if you feel like you need to, communicate the concern to your spouse and let go of them changing, and then use some loving distance if you have to. There's a lot more we could talk about when it comes to expectations and boundaries, and this video certainly isn't intended to be comprehensive. But you can start by paying attention to those expectations that you have. Thanks for listening.